Did President Trump just make a major foreign policy blunder, or is this a masterstroke we don't yet understand? He threatened to pull thousands of American troops from Germany, a move meant to pressure European allies into joining the U.S. in its escalating standoff with Iran and reopening the vital Strait of Hormuz. But the expected diplomatic earthquake hasn't happened. In fact, the opposite might be true. Before we continue, if you want to stay on top of everything happening in U.S. politics, hit that subscribe button right now and leave a like. It really helps this channel grow. So, what's the story here? President Trump, amid a heated dispute with German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, decided to withdraw approximately 5,000 U.S. troops stationed in Germany. This wasn't a quiet, calculated redeployment, it was a sudden, unilateral decision announced with significant fanfare. The clear intention was to send a strong message: cooperate on critical U.S. foreign policy objectives, or face the consequences. Specifically, the White House wanted European partners to step up pressure on Iran, particularly concerning its nuclear program and its destabilizing regional activities, and to contribute more significantly to securing maritime trade routes, like the Strait of Hormuz, which have been repeatedly threatened by Iran. However, the reaction from Europe has been far from the capitulated compliance the Trump administration might have hoped for. Instead of seeing this as a lever to push them into the U.S. orbit on Iran, European nations appear to have largely viewed it as another instance of American unilateralism. This move has, in many ways, reinforced their existing skepticism about the reliability of U.S. foreign policy under the current administration. Rather than inspiring a greater commitment to U.S. objectives, it seems to have solidified their inclination to pursue their own diplomatic and security strategies, often independent of Washington. The context here is crucial. For months, there has been a growing friction between the United States and key European allies over a range of issues, from trade and climate change to the Iran nuclear deal and NATO's defense spending. Trump's approach has often been characterized by a transactional, America First mentality, which has strained traditional alliances. The troop withdrawal from Germany, a country that hosts a significant U.S. military presence and is a linchpin of NATO operations in Europe, was intended to be a powerful demonstration of this philosophy. The idea was that by reducing its physical presence, the U.S. would force Europe to shoulder more responsibility and, in doing so, align its foreign policy with American priorities. The failure of this tactic to yield the desired results on Iran is particularly noteworthy. The U.S. has been pushing for a more robust international coalition to confront Iran, citing its ballistic missile program, its support for proxy groups, and its threats to shipping in critical waterways. However, European powers, while sharing some concerns about Iran, have generally favored diplomacy and the preservation of the Iran nuclear deal, which the Trump administration withdrew from. They believe that maximum pressure without a clear diplomatic off-ramp could lead to unintended escalation, potentially drawing them into a conflict they wish to avoid. Trump's troop threat, therefore, wasn't enough to convince them to abandon this cautious approach in favor of a more confrontational one, especially if it means risking their own economic and security interests. What does this mean for the future of U.S.-European relations? It suggests a deepening divergence in strategic outlooks. Europe is increasingly signaling its desire for greater strategic autonomy, meaning it wants to be able to act independently when necessary, without being solely reliant on or dictated to by Washington. Trump's actions, while intended to force alignment, may have inadvertently accelerated this trend. It also raises questions about the future of NATO. While the alliance remains a cornerstone of European security, disagreements over burden sharing and strategic direction have become more pronounced. The withdrawal of U.S. troops, even if only a fraction of the total presence, could be seen as a symbolic weakening of America's commitment to European defense, prompting further re-evaluation of defense postures within Europe itself. Furthermore, this situation highlights the complexities of global diplomacy. The world is not a monolithic bloc, and individual nations will always act in what they perceive to be their national interest. Trump's tactic of using military assets as a bargaining chip for broader foreign policy goals did not achieve its intended outcome because the European calculus of risk and reward, particularly concerning Iran, differs significantly from Washington's. They likely see little benefit in antagonizing Iran further, especially if it means jeopardizing their own diplomatic efforts or economic ties, and certainly not if it leads to direct involvement in a potential conflict. The implications for the Strait of Hormuz are also significant. The U.S. has a vested interest in ensuring the free flow of oil and commerce through this choke point. However, European nations, while also dependent on global trade, may be less willing to commit military resources to a confrontation with Iran unless their own immediate interests are directly and severely threatened. They may also believe that diplomatic channels, however strained, offer a better long-term solution than military escalation. Ultimately, this episode underscores the challenges of leading a global alliance in an era of shifting power dynamics and differing national priorities. President Trump's troop withdrawal from Germany, intended as a powerful statement and a tool of leverage, appears to have fallen short of its ambitious foreign policy objectives concerning Iran. Instead, it may have served to further solidify European independence and highlight the growing gap between US and European strategic visions. The needle, it seems, has barely budged on Iran, and perhaps even moved further away from the US position, while reinforcing Europe's own path forward. So what do you think about this? Did Trump's troop threat backfire spectacularly, or is this part of a larger, more complex strategy we've yet to see unfold? Drop your opinion in the comments below. I read every single one.